about them nutraceuticals like BioPQQ.
So the DNA Force, again, you know, as we were talking with the attack on our DNA, I mean, how do we protect our DNA? That's really the whole purpose. I mean, as I was looking around at all these different things, and your dad was actually helping me with this, he's like, we know that with the vaccines, especially with the vaccines, the flu shots, we know with what they're spraying in the air, we know with all the radiation, we know there's an attack on our DNA. How can we counterattack that? How can we protect our own DNA? How can we prevent actually the aging process or the degradation? Because what happens with DNA and with genetics is if your genes are malfunctioning or toxic and your DNA is toxic, the next time that cell replicates, it's going to malfunction. And it just every time that cell replicates and replicates, if it doesn't have the proper nutrients and it's under attack by toxic substances, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse, and it's going to be altering. The good news is, and Bruce Lipton proved this, that the genes are directly related to the environment in which you live. That means if you start putting clean water in your body, if you start eating clean organic food, if you start reducing the amount of toxic genetic compounds that are coming into your body on a daily basis, then you can actually repair your genes and your DNA. So
and BioPQQ is known, one of the only things to help the mitochondria that power the cells, and it's full of a whole bunch of other stuff. But this is admitted to regrow nerves. I personally started taking it years ago, and my finger that had been chopped off, the feeling came back into it. I mean, this is serious.
So that's the whole purpose, and that's why DNA Force is so expensive, because, but it's worth it. It actually works inside your body to help prepare for your cells.
And similar formulas, though, are double or triple the price. We massively
discount. Exactly. I mean, just the single ingredients alone, if you were to buy every single ingredient in DNA Force by itself, it would be upwards of like $300 or $400 to do that. So we have a unique combination of ingredients with the BioPQQ, the trans-resveratrol, the lipoic acid in there, all of the cellular components that are going to be there to help reduce the amount of toxic damage to your DNA.
And help your cells, as you said, move the garbage out.
Yeah, it helps reduce all of the chemicals and toxins that are in there. It protects the cell membrane. By far, one of the most successful products. I take it every single day, and I notice a difference.
Now people got to watch out, though. Folks that have had hurt backs and things, sometimes nerves have basically gotten dead and things. I mean, you might talk to your physician, because some people take it and they go, oh, yeah, my nerves are coming back all right. My back's hurting. And then a few months later, they're like, wow, the pain went away. But sometimes it doesn't. So talk to your physician. This is not a joke, DNA Force.
That's just proof that when you start having and you can feel things take place, even if you haven't felt an area, a lot of people say that they have numbness in different parts of their bodies from injuries, and they start taking the DNA Force, and then they call into your customer service and they say, I'm starting to feel numbness, or I'm starting to feel tingling sensation. That's proof right there.
Nerves coming back. It's totally numb.
You can actually regenerate all of these things.
So my finger started tingling for about 4 or 5 months, and then just feeling's back, tingling's gone.
Yep. All of the degenerative processes that are pre-planned for population control, eugenics, to keep us sick, to keep us on medications. As a matter of fact, most pharmaceutical medications, practically all of them, cause genetic and DNA damage and cause damage to the cells. You know, that's a whole nother show. But getting off and reducing your toxic amount coming into your body is obviously the first step. Drinking a lot of good, clean, purified water.
And not just being fatalistic and saying, oh, it's all over. Think about your children. Drink properly filtered water that actually doesn't just take out the taste, but screens it out. Take X2, take DNA Force. But regardless, just take action and get healthy. We're not preaching at you. We don't want the globalists to be able to have their way. We are simply researching this just as you are. We are all in this together. X2, 20% off at InfoWarsLife.com. DNA Force is there as well. InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. And know this, your funding of the broadcast is essential in the fight, so it's a total win. Absolute win, so thank you so much. Now, Dr. Grip, shifting out of that, other things that are out there that are natural, that are free, that also help briefly, and let's get to Joe Jennings' story. He's got a lot of articles and documents about the fact that almost all reactors are leaking a bunch of different isotopes and tritium, and now they just say it's not bad for you.
Well, it's been around for a long time. Tell us about your story.
Basically, I mean, I grew up in Thousand Oaks, California, and that whole area, Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, Canoga Park, Northridge, it's a giant area. It's north of LA, and I don't think anybody knew that there was a nuclear reactor there. I mean,
or that one blew up there.
No.
They kept it secret in what in the 50s when one blew up.
In 1959.
Yeah.
It had it was an experimental reactor. It had a massive overload like Chernobyl. And what had happened is the radioactive material had built up inside the reactor. So what did they have to do with it? Well, they said, vent it out the thing. Vent it out the door.
Now, let me just stop you and introduce this. Joe Jennings, tell us who you are. Tell us about your dad, because I know about this. It's finally been in the news. But they've got experimental reactors, 2 of them here in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
The word is those have released stuff. But they just don't care. Now they want to build another one. And then I tell people on the street, they laugh at me. They're preconditioned, like some type of brainwashing, to not hear the truth, even when it's in front of them. It's just so bizarre. But understand, this thing blew up, and they covered it up, and they've got one just like it here where we live. So break down your story and then get back into this.
So basically, me and my dad, growing up, he was a general contractor. So what we basically did was, after high school and stuff, I'd go work with him, remodeling older homes. Because most of the homes were built in the 50s. In Southern California, old homes are known. So what we would do is we would go in and remodel these homes, taking the exterior paint and sanding it back down to the wood because people were cheap and didn't want to buy new wood. So you're exposed to all these things, digging up their yards, doing all these different things. At no point did me or my dad know that, hey, there's toxic stuff in the woods, in the groundwater, in the soils, anything like that. Nobody knows about this. So basically, about 1.5 years ago, my dad died just very suddenly. Had a glioblastoma brain tumor. Now, our family's nobody in our family's had history of brain tumors or any kind of cancer like that. And it was kind of like a puzzle piece going, well, how did this happen? Where did this come from? I mean, how do you get a brain tumor just out of nowhere?
How do we have 10,000% increases conservatively in pediatric cancers?
Exactly.
We're getting killed. Go ahead, please.
So, as someone who's lost a very close family member, you always you always have that question of why, how could this happen? Where did it happen? Am I affected by what happened? Have I been put into that situation also? So I did see this story that NBC4 came out with, and it just blew my mind. It's like a giant puzzle piece that just falls into your lap, and you go, oh, wait a minute. This is the exact areas that we worked in, that we remodeled in. Plus, my dad did a lot of work.
And by the way, this was Chernobyl level. It blew up.
Oh, yeah.
So know this, when they blow up, they cover it up, folks.
Yeah, they covered up the whole thing. Nobody knew about it. They were sworn to secrecy. So after the Northridge earthquake hit in, I think, 90 or 91?
Yes.
We did a massive amount of remodeling in those areas. Now, what happens when the earth shakes? It brings up soils. It brings up all kinds of things that weren't there before. At no point did anyone, and there was thousands and thousands of contractors working on these older homes.
Just like the dust on 9/11, they knew it was deadly. They lied and said it wasn't because they want to kill us.
Yeah, they don't want to reveal it. Could you imagine if they had to pay people for that? And one of the scary things is we all knew that Rocketdyne was up in the hills in Santa Susana Pass. They tested shuttle engines. They tested most of the rockets that went into space. That's where they tested them every day. You felt the ground shaking. Guess what? They're testing a rocket. All of those plumes, all of that stuff is just going right into the air, right there in Simi Valley, which is named the Valley of the Wind. Now, right next to Simi Valley is where we get a lot of our produce. Strawberries, melons, avocados, oranges. It's all in that valley. And where does the wind go? It goes right into the valley. And the other side of the valley, towards all these high-priced homes. And guess what? Radiation doesn't care.
And just remember, folks, they've got hundreds of research reactors around the country, and the public doesn't even know about them.
We never knew about it. I didn't know there was a reactor up there. There was more than one. There was 4. Experimental reactor.
You're talking about there in where you grew up in California.
Yeah, in the Santa Susana Pass. Now, we knew Rocketdyne was there. We knew they tested rocket engines there. But nobody.
By the way, people say, oh, experimental, it's not big. No, some of them are huge. They're more dangerous because they're turning them on, they're turning them off. They're simulating disasters with these stinking things.
They don't have all the safety equipment that
nobody tells you that when you go to school at UT, under UT downtown is a humongous experimental reactor. They don't tell anybody.
No. They said that they were the waste that was produced by the reactor, they take it out to what they called the burn pit and shoot it with a high-powered rifle and explode it.
Yeah, that's what they do here in Austin. They just take it out up north and they just throw it in a cave.
Nice people.
That sits there for millions and millions of years and contaminates the earth and contaminates the environment and the air. So,
who are these people? Are they people? Or are they demon-possessed? We'll be back. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I was just given an article that went live on Infowars.com that was devastating. You see all the German Green Party and all the main Muslim leaders saying blonde hair, blue eye is bad. We will get rid of the blonde hair, blue eyes. They are bad. We will get rid of the Christians. They are bad. The Pope has now come out and said Christians are bad. It's I linked through. It's official. He did it. It's a speech. You cannot make this up. Pope Francis likens Jesus to ISIS, says Muslims, migrants must breed with Europeans. Francis claims ISIS similar to Jesus, sending his disciples to all nations. This guy's a false prophet for sure now. He goes on to say, the Pope said he, quote, dreaded, this is a quote, hearing about Christian roots of Europe. I'm quoting the Pope, the false Pope, dreaded hearing about Christian roots in Europe because to him they take a colonialist overtones, and he claimed on Euro nations to integrate, called on them, Muslim migrants into the continent and to breed with them. I mean, this guy is incredible. Your take on that?
It just, every single day something comes out that is so shocking that it's almost unbelievable. I mean, we're in these times right now, which, don't get me wrong, these times are good because we are creating a lot of change, but they're also, it's like a war that's happening between the globalists and the people.
Enemy is just uncloaking.
And they're just coming out and doing anything and saying any single thing that they want. I mean, stuff that you would never imagine a pope saying in the history. Like, these times are going to be looked back upon, like our kids, and they're going to say, wow, Dad, you lived in those times. And we're going to say,
look at this.
Yes, we were part of the revolution.
Or if they win, who knows?
Yeah,
Pope Francis likens Jesus to ISIS. You could actually read this. He told the French newspaper in an interview. I mean, let's get back to the radiation. You were talking about doctors aren't trained to look for the poisoning. Plus, a lot of these isotopes sit in your body for years. Then they give you the tumors. But it's basically dissipated once you die. Break it down.
Yeah, so every radiological damaging element, whether it's plutonium, uranium, cesium, they all have different half-lives. Tritium has a half-life of 12 years. So what happens is you might have, I mean, right now with Fukushima alone, all of the damage, nothing is being documented because they don't want to document it. They don't want to come out publicly and say, this is the damage worldwide from Fukushima. You have earthquakes that are at record levels right now, happening like 300 earthquakes or more a day happening around the world. Yellowstone is being disrupted.
Never before recorded stuff.
We are on the verge of a major nuclear disaster. All it takes, I mean, these nuclear power plants, whoever designed them, putting them right next to the ocean or putting them right next to major riverways, I mean, it was almost like they were designed that way on purpose. They almost knew that, say, 60 years from now, we're going to have a major nuclear disaster because of all the earthquakes and all the changes.
Well, I was talking to a scientist. The best reason for it is rivers are usually on fault lines that have broken open so the water flows. That's what really cuts through the canyon. It's an earthquake. Water didn't do most of that. And so they build them on fault lines because that's where the rivers and lakes and oceans are. But still, they're now on fault lines, which shows they don't even care. And Joe Jennings, you were making a point about your dad. There he was with that brain tumor that grew so fast.